Sorry about that. I just had a little accident here with the cords, with the cables. Again, welcome to Shadows Beyond the Grave and the Paranormal with David Cutler. This is our third installment for a live stream video, and we're going to be discussing angels and demons. In the other video that unfortunately we lost signal there, we were talking about a little bit of the history of where we found our recent and most modern notion of what angels are and what they have come to be to us. Now I wanted to give you a lesser known version of the angelic realm, of what we have, what we don't learn in the Hallmark cards or the Christmas specials. I guess that's one of the things that you guys wanted to see and you guys wanted to find out. In ancient times, angels were actually depicted not only as messengers, but not necessarily as we come to know them today, as protectors and as a happy or as a secure blanket for many. And there were very few distinctions between an angelic being and an omen from an unseen and invisible entity when it came to be the designation of God. It didn't have to be something good. It could also be a messenger for example, when the tragedy of Sodom and Gomorrah, 3 angels came to deliver God's punishment. That didn't mean that both towns were destroyed, and it was actually a bad thing. But there were angels that delivered what God wanted it to happen. And back then, angels were the ones that actually delivered God's will. Nowadays, we associate angels only with good things. We pray that a guardian angel would be with us when we're on the street alone, or when we need protection, or when we need something, but only when it's something positive, something good. Back then, they were feared in the same way that they were expected, but it was only mostly fear. It was expected, of course. There were supernatural beings that came to deliver the will of God, and since they didn't have free will, you could not negotiate with them, so that's why people would fear them. And it was very clear in in the canon, in all the religious texts that they were written about them. It was very specific that the angels, that's why we have the angel of death, Azrael, that even though that sometimes it was depicted as the skull with the black coal, it didn't mean that he was good or bad. He was just doing his job. But since we don't want to think about those things, and death, everybody is afraid of death, we just want to see the pink and happy side of stuff. Now, we are only familiar, most people are only familiar with 4 major angels that are actually archangels that the Jewish, the Christian, and the Islam faith have put forward. There is Gabriel, Uriel, Michael, and Raphael. Michael, it's the archangel that it is said in the Bible that is going to fight the beast or Satan. Gabriel, the messenger, like I mentioned before, is the one that delivered the news to Mary, and very few people know it because they don't read, they haven't read that part of the Bible. Also delivered the news to Mary's mother, Anna, when she was going to get pregnant with Mary. Uriel, that is the guardian of Eden, and the holder of the sword, the flaming sword. And Raphael, that is the guardian, actually not the guardian, he actually is what we call the healer, the angel that heals. And actually his symbol is the caduceus. I don't know if many people pay attention in the ambulances and in the doctor's offices and most hospitals. They have the snake around the staff. That is his symbol, the caduceus. So those are the 4 major angels that most people know about, and they're shared by the 3 major religions, which by the way, in none of those religions, they're not worshipped, which it's obvious because being monotheistic, they don't worship anything that isn't God. But I have found out that in many pagan circles, there are actually sects that actually worship angels. They do worship angels as individual entities, and they actually serve them as gods, which that was very interesting. Now, the correlation between, is there any difference between an angel and a demon? They were once the same, or they're 2 very different beings? Is there the same thing between a fallen angel? And to be honest, according to the books, according to the earliest versions of the books, to the before the Bible was written, a fallen angel and a demon is not the same. A fallen angel was an angel that fell from grace, and a demon was and to me it was a surprise because I couldn't understand. That's what I thought too, Natalie. When I read in the Torah and the Talmud that a demon, it's nothing more than the debris of what it was left of creation, a deformed debris of what it was left of creation. And I could not understand it at all until I asked a couple of people. I asked a rabbi, I asked a seminarist that's a priest, and a theologian. Back then he was my teacher. And according to certain texts, they believe in antiquity that a demon was the evolution of that cosmic trash. A fallen angel was a rebellious angel, an angel that became aware of, and they gave me the example of Prometheus. Prometheus is a mythological legend that brought fire to the human beings. Now, anybody that is familiar with the book of Enoch, that is one of my favorite books because it's all about angels, it's all about the fallen angels and all about the demons, it details how the sons of God saw the daughters of men, and they thought that they were beautiful. And that's how they fall from grace. They taught them how to make weapons, the angels, to the humans. They taught them how to make weapons, how to make potions, how to make medicine, how to make craft, meaning witchcraft, medicine, all of those things. And that was one of the, and they became impregnated by them, which makes me think a lot of things. First of all, we were taught that angels had no sex, they had no reproductive system, they had no come to actually became physically there to us. So it makes you think in the realm of how could this happen? But there you go, it was there. But like anything, if you're going to believe something, one thing, you have to believe the other. Or if you're not going to believe this, you cannot believe the other. But then, that's how supposedly, that's how they fell from grace. That's how the Nephilim, described in the Bible, came out to be. And that's how one thing had nothing to do with the other. Now, having that said, what a Jewish person would think that a demon is, it's in no way what a Christian does. It's in no way what a pagan person does, or what I came to find out, that a common person that has no affiliation whatsoever would think that a demon many people don't believe in angels, but for some reason they do believe in demons. And I find that fascinating. They do believe that there are dark spirits, but they don't believe that there are light spirits. It's incredibly fascinating how detailed descriptions of each side are there thousands and thousands of years ago. Exactly. You cannot have one without the other. But the more that I find, and one feeds of each other too, because the more than we have the perfect example of the Temple of Solomon. The Temple of Solomon, and many people don't know this, the Lord of the Rings tale, the story that Tolkien wrote, it is loosely based on the legend of King Solomon. And I was fascinating. I'm a geek. I'm a nerd. I'm a Star Wars, Tolkien, Lord of the Rings type of thing, a person. I love that type of thing. So I had to find out. And the Ring of Power, it was actually based on Solomon's ring. And that little incantation, that little recite semi-poem that they said at the beginning, one ring to rule them all, one ring to bind them, one ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them. It is an actual incantation from the Ring of Solomon. And then I took me aback and I said, wasn't Solomon one of the greatest kings in the Bible that actually loved God? And that launched me into almost 3 years of investigation of how this came to be. So I wrote an article about how in this that there is in the Quran and in the Bible and in other books, especially historical books, there is actual evidence, which I'm all about papers and actual evidence, of how Solomon left actual incantations, according to him, where he thought or believed to have used demons to actually help him build his empire. So there is no way that one person can actually separate the good from the bad without actually causing some time of tear. And the more that I try to explain it to people, some people would get really, really angry because they really don't want to believe it. They really don't want to see it. They don't want to accept it, that you cannot have one without the other. I call it the Oreo cookie effect. You cannot have the cookie without the cream, or it's going to taste a little weird. So it is exactly like that. So you're going to find a lot of, especially if you look really hard enough with an open mind, you're going to find that most of those greatest heroes in history were aided either from a good spirit or from a dark spirit. So, to the dark spirit, they were always going to call it demons. And that's another thing. In Asia, especially in China and Japan, they would call any type of spirit, doesn't matter if it's good or if it's bad, if it's angry or if it's sad, or if it's a demon. To them, if it's not incarnated, it's a demon. And you have to respect that. So our view of what an angel and a demon is, it may not be to the other person around the world. It's completely subjective. Completely subjective. My husband, my soon-to-be husband, I'm engaged. My soon-to-be husband, he is half Japanese. And his grandfather was actually convinced that if it was invisible, and if it doesn't matter if it did good or if it was bad, it was a demon, because it was not incarnated. So it's all a matter of the culture that you were exposed to. And even we're talking about highly educated people, so it didn't matter. It's a matter of belief. So now, when we come to the demon counterpart, we could choose to decide that we're not talking about our fallen angels that decided to actually leave for carnal purposes, and we're going to leave the Luciferian story aside and concentrate on the demonic part or the aspect of it. I've also seen people, instances, places where it is obvious that they're completely convinced that there is a demonic force, and it's always described as such, demonic force at play. One of the interesting things is that when we describe these type of things, it comes either in ones or in many. In the Bible, is described as legion. And when it comes to in this type of scenarios, they always say it's a lot of them. There are many. They're too strong. Or there is a lot of negative energy, meaning that there are more than one. Like if you could quantify, like 1, 2, 20, 40. As a matter of fact, people during millennia have tried, and they actually have named over 5,000 different demons. And that's only in the 3 major religions. They all share them, because that's actually very helpful, because when you go as a reference, when you go to an actual book, you can find them. It doesn't matter which religion you are. You can actually find them. Over 5,000. Name, description, what they like, what they don't like, where their origin. Over 5,000. When it comes to angels, they only mention the ones that they share in common. Now, what I find interesting enough, what I find very interesting is, for example, in the cases of possession, in the cases of poltergeist, or in the cases of infestation, is that they have always the same demons infesting the places. I always find that funny, because it's like it's always Pazuzu, it's always Abaddon, it's always the same ones. These are very busy demons, apparently. They're always very busy because they're always the same ones. Always the same ones. And I was talking to a colleague the other day that I used to do investigations with, and she reminded me of a girl. Here, I see something above your head. To the left, a shadowy figure and a face, more than one. They always walk with me. That's another thing. Before I get to I go to that. I was talking to this friend, and she was reminded me of an investigation that we were at years ago, of this teenage girl, and she had an issue. She had an issue with. She was playing with things that she should have been playing with, and she was getting into not Satanism, Luciferianism, and invoking things that she shouldn't have. And it was amazing how people try to call upon things that they don't understand, and then a little shadow appears, and then they're running to the door. And since they don't know what it's called, they're too afraid to actually ask. And then they remember something that they heard in a movie, and they start calling it that. I just find that fascinating. I just find it fascinating. Fascinating. And that happens a lot. And sometimes when you call upon something an X amount of times, then sooner or later that's exactly what is going to happen. That's exactly what is going to show up. Not necessarily if you call upon a Babylonian demon from the 5th century, that doesn't mean that it's going to appear. But many people believe that. The demons of the Goetia, for example, that's another part of the Solomon demons, which is in the legend. Those are the demons that helped Solomon build the temple. There are people that actually try to summon demons. Invoking and evoking are two very different things. When you evoke a demon and when you're invoking a demon, they're two very different cups of tea. Then when you summon something and that thing shows up, because I have seen it happen, then they have no idea what to do. They have no clue whatsoever to do, and they have no idea how to get rid of it. And the key is that people don't know exactly. It doesn't have to necessarily be a demon, because people feel like special snowflakes when they say, oh, I saw a demon or I saw an angel. We are always surrounded by spirits, forces, entities, all the time. Like Sherry was saying that she sees something above my head on the left. We're always surrounded by something. Always. Sometimes it's more prominent, sometimes they don't want you to see it. Always. There's the things that are there. That's why they call it the spirits of the air. There are some things that are so either angry or sad or actually there to actually protect you. And they're the things that you create. That's what the case with certain kinds of shadow persons. That starts with a little tiny black ball, and by the time that tiny black ball evolves into a full-fledged entity on its own, and it's all full of your hate, your sorrow, and all of the things that you have been cooked up for so long that it becomes a full-fledged entity. And that is something that I have seen, and there is nothing scarier than that. There is nothing scarier than that. So, let me see. Okay. For many people don't want to believe or don't care to believe in demons, but at the same time they can feel it in the back of their head when they go into certain places, when they meet certain people, when they're at night alone in the intentions of another person, and at the same time it's so difficult to actually differentiate between what we are as human beings and what we like to call demonic forces. Every time that I look back at all the horrible things that we human beings have done, and then we try to blame demons and the devil for it, it makes me cringe. Because we don't want to take responsibility. We don't want to accept that we as human beings were capable of doing something so horrible. Oh, she must have influenced that woman that killed her 5 babies. She must have been possessed. She must have, you know, at least that's what I wanted to think, at least in my case. But no, human beings can be like that. We can be like that. In the same token that nowadays, some people think nobody can be that good. Nobody can love unconditionally. Nobody can give everything that they have in their pocket without a secondary intention. Nobody can be that type of angelic person. So angels don't exist. Yes, they do. People are that good too. People are that bad, and people are that good. So, whatever anybody believes about the influence or lack thereof, of good or bad, to us humans, it's completely irrelevant. Because we are what we are. And we have free will. Free will. And we get to choose. We get to choose whether or not we're going to do whatever we're going to do. And to be honest, after all these years of me reading the opinions of hundreds of years of other people's experiences and dogma regarding angels and jinn, demons, demonic possessions, when it comes to the things that I have seen, anything is possible. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. I have experience on both ends. Both ends. Both ends. And I smile because I sound like the public relations representative of a politician. I cannot accept or deny the allegations because I have seen some amazing things. I have seen things that I cannot explain. I have experienced some very horrifying things. For example, when I was little 5 years old, I could hear the scratches. I could hear the door in my bedroom that they were scratching it. Scratching and scratching. Mind you, we had no pets. That should give you a clue. We had no pets. And I was so afraid to get up. I was so afraid to get up that I just sat on the bed and I just waited and waited and waited and waited. I was very good at praying back then. Very good at praying. So I waited until the sun came up. Everyone went to sleep. But my grandmother beat me to it and she opened the door around 5 in the morning. And when she opened the door, I just ran to the door. And there were scratches all over that door. All over the door. In another instance, I've been around people that can do channeling. Channeling is a form of, many people would say that it's a form of possession. Many people have said that. So that's another way of defining that type of event. So it all depends what type of person you are. You can define it as a type of possession or as a type of mediumship. So how would you define if it is a dead person or is it a demon? So everybody's going to pick or choose. Is it my dead grandmother, or is it a demon? Is it a demon masqueraded as my grandmother, or is Granny mad because I threw away her favorite shoes? So that is what many people have asked me and told me. Sherry says, I was woken up every night for almost a week by a very bad demon. My husband is a non-believer, but asked me what we could do to get rid of it. So I did a cleansing of my house, and it hasn't reappeared. It's been 2 years, and yes, dementia do exist in evil spirits. Yes. Oh yes. They can be very mischievous. And that's another thing. Mischievous spirit, is one thing. But a demon as the category of to destroy a human being, to destroy a person to the point of driving them to commit suicide or to kill another person, those are very two different things. And I have seen them both. I have seen them both. And it's not a pretty picture. It's not a pretty picture. And it takes a very strong person to deal with something like that. Especially if the person doesn't believe, it's even harder because you try to rationalize it and it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit at all. And the more that you try, the less it fits. And it drives you crazy. A demon masquerading, yes. A demon masquerading as your grandmother, yeah. I have heard that. A lady told me once, all those mediums and all those channelers are channeling demons. And I asked her, seriously? If that is exactly how you feel, then I see no point, because first of all, what we see in movies it's not an everyday happening. I have seen not only documentaries, but I have been in 2 suspected demon possession cases, not here but in Puerto Rico. And the way that it's investigated, it's not like they showed in the movies. They actually take the person to the doctor, they take the person to a psychiatrist, and it takes almost a year. It takes almost a year for actually to become assessed, to become, that's even before the word possessed gets to be mentioned. And the best skeptics, at least in my opinion, has come from the church. At least the serious ones have come from the church. And that has been an advantage, because there are so many people that really want to have that experience that actually make it worse. They actually make it worse. And like I said, especially when it comes to, I'm not going to mention specific faiths or practices, but there are certain practices when they're the medium or the channeler trying to channel a deity or a dead person, and they actually channeling something else, and that did happen to me once. Not to me personally, to a person that it was in front of me, and the person was trying to make a point, because I actually told the person that I wasn't buying what the person was selling to me in regards to that I didn't believe him. And this person was not a voodoo priest, but it was along of that faith. And what happened next, I am never going to forget it. I'm never going to do that again, because what happened, I couldn't move, and the only thing that he said was, he will show you how to believe. I couldn't move my neck, I couldn't move my arms, I couldn't talk. I tried to scream. I started to feel choked up. And I became a believer. I went there to try to debunk this person as a fraud. And I came out of there to go and eat dinner with his wife, because it was that shocking. It was that shocking. So whether or not what happened there was due to a demonic force or a spirit that have a very bad sense of humor, I don't know. But I don't want to go through that again. Let me put it that way. So if any of you have a specific question regarding the angelic realm or the demonic, feel free to ask. In the meantime, there is something that I wanted to share with you. There is something that I wanted to share with you. And let's see. The book. What book, Natalie? The Book of Enoch? For example, there are different books that weren't included in the Bible. Yes. Okay. There are very few books in the Bible that talk directly about angels and angels' interaction with humans. That is the Book of Daniel and the Book of Enoch, apart from Genesis and Revelations. Revelations, because that's how St. John goes to heaven, and he gets to be shown all of the things that are going to happen during the apocalypse. But it's in the Book of Enoch that Enoch is actually being introduced to how the fallen angels came to be and why. It is very detailed, extremely detailed. Even some of the names of the fallen angels and some of the name of the angels are mentioned. It wasn't included in the Bible, but they weren't included in the Bible, but it's a very well-known book. Yes. It's a very well-known book, and actually every person that is actually studies mysticism or seminary like I did, it's a must read, because it's not only rich in what they call the folklore, it also introduces you to every single religion when it comes to myth, and it gives you an understanding to where all the little legends come from that we know today. All those plot holes that we come to ask where this came from, it come from that book. And I became fascinated with it years ago, especially when when it came that time when there was a lot of movies about Noah and the flood, especially in the 2012 era, that the world was going to end. And there was a lot of articles and a lot of videos about how this new epoch and how this new time came to be, and so on and so forth. I needed to refresh in my memory when it came to a little bit of the history of how the church and why they took out certain books. And that's why I bought it. That was 4 years ago, and I wanted to reread it and getting freshened up on that. And that is the reference that few people know about angels, especially the fallen angels. Because ironically, when, especially in Christian faith, we don't like to mix our angels with our demons. We don't like to mix our Jesus with Satan. So there are certain instances, especially in that book, especially in certain parts of the Bible, like in the book of Job, when Satan goes to heaven and actually has a conversation with God. So, and people really, it's not that they're not interested, it's just that it doesn't click in their heads that actually the fallen angel, because that's exactly what Satan is, a fallen angel, can actually would go back to heaven to have a conversation with God about a man and have a wager about his future and his sheep and his kids. So those little details that people don't pay attention to, those are the little details that I love to study and that I love to talk about. Sherry says, yes, a very bad spirit or demon. That's the way they make you feel. They make you so scared that you can't move. You just want to scream, but you can't. Yes, that book appeals to me. The Book of Enoch. Yes, that's exactly how it spells. The Book of Enoch. I read it in an afternoon. It's not that complicated. It's not that, well, you have to also understand, it is a book of the Bible, so it is like reading any book of the Bible. So you have to have your time and your patience. So, but it's quite a read. It is quite a read. Hello, Renee. I find it fascinating also that many people that I have known swear that they have photographed angels, that they have felt them, that they actually can feel the presence of angels around them, that they can, because we came from the background, that's why I'm going back and forth. Yeah, so I went to Catholic school, so yeah, it's beautiful in the sense of the peace that it brings to actually feel that you are protected in such a way. At least I like to think so. That if the boogeyman could be underneath the bed or inside the closet, at least we have our angel right beside us. It is believed, especially in the most Christians don't know that we come from a religion that is we are Judeo-Christians, because Christians are derived from the Jewish faith, that believes that a child is born with two angels. They're called tutelary angels. They're always with you. In the Islamic faith, they believe that you're born with an angel and with a demon. You remember in the cartoons that there's always the angel and the little devil. One is to tempt you and the other one is to actually give you good advice. That's where it roots from. So to me, that's why it always makes me laugh, because that's exactly what people have believed always. So it is ingrained in our minds and in our culture that we're being looked after by angelic beings. So I hope if you guys don't have any other questions or anything like that, okay, so I wanted to share you a story, and I wanted to leave it for the end. And to leave it on a positive note. I really thought that, actually first I'm going to tell you the bad one, and then I'll tell you the positive one. The bad one was I came from I left a very bad relationship, and my then husband was sometimes violent. And I remember once that he grabbed me by the neck. He was much taller than me. He grabbed me by the neck. And I remember that he put me in, he tried to choke me in against the closet. And I could hear, actually no, I couldn't hear anything because my ears were ringing. And I felt that he just dropped me. He just dropped me and just fell back. And I looked at him and he was horrified. He was just pale. I felt a peace and a sadness at the same time that I could not describe, but it was a good sadness. I don't know if you guys understand. And when I asked him what happened, because he left, when I asked him what happened, he said, I heard a male voice above my head that said, don't ever touch her again. Don't ever touch her again. Or you will be punished. And when I asked him, where did you heard that? And I said, I heard it when you were the one holding my shirt. And it came from the top of your head. And I said, okay. That was the last time. That was the last time. The last time. The last time that ever happened. That was the bad one. In the sense that, in the sense it was a good thing, but it was a consequence of a bad thing. Now, my father told me this one. Thank you, Renee. My father told me this one from, it was about 2 to 3 years ago. And he swears that it was an angel. And this is the perfect example of people that don't believe in angels and something happens and they swear on their graves that it was an angel. This is the perfect example. He was in the living room just resting after a long day, very long day of work. And this huge black shadow. Hi, Silvana from Ontario. I'm so glad to see you here. There is this huge black shadow coming toward him. And my father is, he's skinny, but he's a big guy. He was shaking on his shorts. And I'm just quoting him. He was shaking on his shorts. Because he could not only see this thing, he could actually smell this foul, rancid stench. And he was terrified. He was terrified. To the point that he could not think. He could not move. He could not say anything. He could just only watch whatever it was there. He could only watch it. Whatever it was, it turned off his fan. It turned off I think it was a VCR or a DVD that it was next to the hallway. It turned them off. And it was coming toward him. He said that this white mass just fell from the ceiling. Just a white light just fell from the ceiling next to him. Just a huge white mass of light. And then the thing just started retrieving until it completely went away in a matter of seconds. He felt, and I quote, I felt like a divine being was with me and that nothing could harm me and nothing could touch me. And could it be a minute? Could it be 5? Nothing could harm me, nothing could touch me. I have never seen my father cry until that moment. I had never seen my father cry. And I saw that man started to weep. And that was very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. But very, very healing. I think for both of us it was very healing, especially for him. It was very beautiful. Very beautiful. Very beautiful. So, okay. So any of you guys have any questions or any shout outs that you guys want, or anything in particular that I also wanted to clarify something very interesting that I found out a year ago. The Catholic Church just revised their manual for exorcisms. They did a revision on it, and they actually have recruited over 2 million new exorcists. Just to let you guys know. Just to let you guys know. Fun fact. And they started training pastors and ministers and even people that are not from the cloth, and they're not ordained within the Catholic Church, who actually perform exorcisms, including people that are doctors that are actually interested in this type of phenomena. You have to actually travel to the Vatican, but I think that's awesome. It's awesome. I think that you have to go take a bunch of classes, but 2 million in less than 2 years. In less than 2 years, they revised I tried to download the new manual, but it isn't. Half of it is in Latin and the other one is in Italian. So I'm still trying. My father is helping me translate it because my Italian sucks. It's very rusty, but my dad is going to help me with that. So, let's see. Actually, my first language is not English. Is actually Spanish. So Spanish, Italian, French are very close together. So parlare italiano, it's not that far from one from the other. So yeah, I read the Divine Comedy when I was 13 completely in Italian, just because it is so close to Spanish. So it is an advantage. It is an advantage, I guess. Oh, sorry. I mean, how to be an exorcist? No. Actually, it's not what people think. Many people think that to be an exorcist is the same thing that happens in the movies. It isn't. Many exorcisms that are actually recorded can take years, and there is nothing much to see. There is nothing much to actually do. For most of them, the only thing that it is, how may I put this? ever since the modern medicine has actually reached the point of discovering chemical imbalances and mental illnesses, and how many people can actually manipulate matter, because to be very oh my god, I'm freezing. One of the things that we have to come to discover nowadays, especially in the realm of physics, quantum mechanics, is that the human beings can actually do a lot of things that we thought that it was impossible a couple of hundreds and thousands of years ago, like telekinesis, like the moving of objects. If you put a person in a specific environment and you stress them out in a certain way, there have been experiments in different universities that they can actually happen. So if things starting to move in your house, that doesn't mean that it's directly because you are possessed, somebody is possessed, or you have a spirit. That's why investigations are so important. That's why there are people that are dedicated to actually do these things. That's why these things are taken seriously, because not everything is unexplained, and not everything that looks unexplained, it's actually what we thought thousands of years ago have become the norm now. In 1,000 more years, what we thought it was impossible is going to become the norm again. So that's how it works. That's why we have the Hadron Collider. That's why we're looking into dark matter. That's why we're doing incredible things that someday, in the 60s and in the 70s, and we have the government actually, and this is not something that I just came out of my head, it's something that is actually documented, that they actually hired psychics and mediums to actually locate people in bunkers and bombs and stuff, and because they actually have developed programs and programs to actually make these things available for the use of not only the government but actually for society. That's why when it's going to come one day when everybody is going to accept certain truths about certain things, and it's going to be as normal as making coffee or using the microwave, which I find it interesting that a couple of decades ago our flat screen TV would have been considered witchcraft or magic, or what I'm doing right here with you. Who would have thought? So to be an exorcist is a person that will not lose their mind if they see somebody doing something that their own mind cannot process. It's as simple as that. If you're not ready to actually see something, no, don't. But if you think that you can handle it, then think again. And then if you think that you can handle that, then think again. And get even more prepared. It's all a psychological process. It's all a psychological process. Because most certified exorcists, which I only have met two. I only have met two certified by the Catholic Church. Certified, two. The only common denominator is that they don't believe at the first instance what's going on. These are people that even though I call them Sunday Christians. They go to church on Sunday. But they are extremely intelligent scientists. One has a PhD in sociology, and the other one has a doctorate's degree in anthropology. So there is a difference between a person that is a radical religious person that would pin an epileptic as a possessed person, and something completely different is a person that is trying to get behind to what it may lead, because sometimes things are not what they seem. But it would be difficult. I think not because of, in my case, it's not because of what I might see, because I have seen worse. Because I would feel sorry for the person and for their family. Yes, I would feel sorry for the family. Yes. That would be very tragic, I guess. Is there any other questions? Okay. So, for example, this little thing that I have here, let me see. I found this in a drawer. This is a talisman. This is a talisman. It is used. This is a cheap talisman that is used. I'm pretty sure that some of you may recognize it. And it is used by many to guard off demonic entities, especially Catholics. This is a Catholic type of a charm using angelic symbolism. And I found it the other day, and I have been using it just randomly. And I looked at it in the mirror this morning, and I started to laugh because I forgot what it was for. I forgot what it was for. Let's see. Renee, it is okay to feel empathy for the person and the family, not for the demon. Yes, it is true. It is the truth. Empathy. We as humans are very complicated. We as humans are very complicated. And when it comes to infestations, when it comes to people that think that they're possessed, when a household is being attacked, it is the responsibility of the investigative team or the person that is investigating that apparent occurrence to make sure that that person and that household is safe. I don't care, and I have never met anybody or have worked with two teams already, and I'm not gonna set on the air exactly the term that they have used. They can give 3 rats about what the entity feels or cares or wants when it comes to when a child is suffering, when it comes to when there is this division in the family, when there is the physical manifestation of that entity. And it is very hard when sometimes when things are really bad, when sometimes it's really hard, because you feel impotent. You cannot do anything about it in some instances, because sometimes some things need to happen for other things to happen as well. That's the best way of putting it. That is the best way of putting it. And that I hate to use the word demon. The parasite. I always call it the parasite. When the parasite is there, when the demon is there, it's a symptom of a bigger problem. It's a symptom of a much, much bigger problem. And if you take care of the problem, the symptom almost always goes away. Almost always goes away. And it hasn't failed. It hasn't failed. Until now, it hasn't failed. So, and that's the take after, 27 years. In this, it hasn't failed. You take care of the root of the problem, the symptom goes away. Very quick. Very quick. Very quick. So, when it comes to angels, I was asked by one of my students the other day that if it was possible to actually expect protection 24/7 from angels. If it was logical, we should expect, if we should ask. Because if it's fair, if a demonic force or if the bad juju can hit you at any time for any particular reason, why not expect the same from the good vibe? Hello from Orange County. Hi from here from LA. Hi Abby. She asked me if it was actually possible, if we could expect the same thing from angels. And I told her, you can expect whatever you want to expect, but remember, if there are things in this life that you need to go through, and you need to fall and scrape your knee, don't expect them to do anything for you in that sense. They'll be by your side. They will give you comfort, but they're not going to prevent you from falling. Hi, Roxanne from Colorado. Cool. Don't expect them from preventing you from falling. They're going to be there for you when you get up, to help you get up, to learn your lesson so you won't fall again, but not from falling. She was kind of disappointed, I guess, but it's that balance is always like, why cannot we expect the same from the good guys than that from the bad guys? And it's like from the yin and yang. We have to learn certain things, and we can do it from both. We can do it from both. It's just that being good, trying to be the best that we can, learning from everything. But we cannot expect it's like our parents, the relationship with our parents. We expect them to be perfect, and then we expect them to do everything for us. Well, not everybody thinks like that, but you know what I mean. That we don't get hurt, but if we don't get hurt, how we're going to learn? It's the same thing. That is disappointing, but I kind of know it was that way. It is painful. It is painful because if we have free will, what kind of life would it be if everything that we do was already written? And at the same time, can you imagine two people want the same job, and those two people have these guardian angels and say, I want that job, no, I want that job. It would be a very interesting match between two guardian angels trying to find that same job for two different people. I know it sounds kind of childish, but that's exactly what it is. It is childish. They are not here to fight our fights. They're not here to fight our battles. They're just here to be our messengers. They're here because that's exactly what angel means. Messenger. Angelos. Angelic. Angel, angelic doesn't mean heavenly, doesn't mean heaven, doesn't mean holy. It means messenger. And that's what people don't understand. It means connection or link between the divine and us. And they expect a bouncer or a bodyguard. And to me, that it's fascinating. That's exactly what many people don't want to accept. We gave them wings and we put them in a dress with pink wings, when in reality in the Bible they're described as having 20 wings, 4,000 eyes, and a completely disfigured form. We depicted them as we want them to be. I mean humans. They have their own existence. They have their own rules. They have their own being. They do what they're doing, and I don't think they care what our agenda is. Why should they? Because we gave them a task. Because we tell them, it's like telling a cat. And I'm sorry if I am giving that comparison. It's like we're telling a cat what we want him to do. The first time, I know that I have trained my cat, but it took 5 years to do so. It's the same thing. It is the same thing. Nobody tells an angelic being what their role is in this realm. They already have their instructions. See you, Natalie. And very soon, I'll have to sign off too. Very quick recap. When it comes to angels, we know most. Okay, Sarah. I love that she just explained the whole divine intermediary thing. The humans with wings depiction has only been around since artists in the Renaissance tried to make angels into something pretty. Oh yes, yes. They did a great job though. They did a great job though. I tried once to do an actual depiction of what it is in the Bible and in other texts, and it was kind of horrifying. Yeah, it was kind of. Well, a cousin of mine actually had a dream, a nightmare. He woke up crying of a creature very similar to a seraphim, and with the 6 wings and the 100 eyes, and for a kid that was quite horrifying, but to each their own. We can debate all night. We could debate all night to whether or not these beings exist. We could. The angels, it's like they give you therapy after you have learned from a difficult lesson, I think. Yes. Yes. It's like a very nice and comfy shoulder. And like I said, we could go all night. And the more that I try to actually put it into words, the different opinions of different beliefs and different religions and opinions, because all of this boils down to opinions. All of this boils down to an opinion. Because if you think about it, for instance, a demon, it says that you can only get rid of a demon only if you know its name. But at the same time, if that name, it's not only the name, but also you can repel it by, in the name of, for example, Jesus Christ. But this person lives in Libya. That's not gonna work. And I have seen that too. Because I'm sorry, I have seen Jewish demons. I have seen demons that are Hindu. I have seen that believe in Shiva and other gods, that they really don't know Jesus and they don't respond to all those things. So, and many people really don't want to hear that. So it all depends where in the world you are, the backup, the cultural belief, and for some reason, depending on whether or not the person is open, it's open to actually letting go of whatever it's around them, then that infestation, that's how many people call it, infestation or possession or that type of influence, then it will subside. And the same thing happened with angels. An angel cannot protect you or be by your side or actually influence your life if you don't let them. It's all a matter of belief. All a matter of belief. So, if that resonates with you, if that actually lights up your life or is tormenting your life when it comes to the other side of the coin, it is because you're allowing it. It's as simple as that. If you're feeling enriched and protected and served by angels, it is because you have allowed it to come to your life and enrich it. If you're being infested by negativity and by horrible things, it is in the same token, in the same boat, that you have opened a little crack to actually that happen too. And we say, no, that's not, I don't want to suffer, I don't want this to happen to me. Oh, yes. Could it also be that parasites come from different times when different gods were being worshipped? Could it also be that parasites from different times when different gods were being worshipped? I am not sure what that means. Like if we were creating those parasites, we were creating the gods, creating the demons. Creating the demons. That's an interesting point. Because if we created the demons, we created the gods. And I have always believed that human beings have the power, actually not only me, many people have, many philosophers actually think that human beings created the gods. All of them. All of them. Not only the God, and I'm going to include there the major monotheistic gods too. And the one God, the many gods, all the pantheistic gods, that they're just archetypes. Because if you're going to think about the gods and goddesses of the different pantheons, and the Greco-Roman, the Greeks and the Romans, and the Egyptians and the Babylonians, they all represent one different aspects of the human psyche. As simple as that. And when you go and see, for example, the God from the Bible, it has all the different characteristics. Is one God with the different faces of humans. Let me explain. It has being perfect, being completely perfect. It gets jealous. It doesn't want anybody, any other gods. It becomes how may I put this? How can it came, his story is so similar to all of the other gods, then when you try to slice it, and you go into back and back and back and back, and I'm going to be very honest. I always tell everybody, and I'm going to go very close here. Very close. I tell everybody that studies religion. No, everybody that goes to church. Read your Bible. Go back to Genesis. Go back to Genesis and read. Actual read. And take notes. Don't scatter and no, read. If there is something missing, something that you don't understand, read. If there are books there that they were supposed to be there, then go and get them and read them all. It's in the comfort of your own home. Nobody's going to judge you. Nobody has to know. You're going to find a lot of amazing things about the history of your own religion. And that goes to every single religion. Every single religion has an amazing backup story. I'm not talking about the denominations. I'm talking about the whole religion per se. Amazing backstory. Amazing backstory. The creating the Demons, we create our own demons. We create our own angels. We create so many things and we bring it about. We create them in the spiritual world and then we bring it about here. What they call it in 3D. We create it in 4-dimensional and then we bring it down here. But yes, that's exactly true. That's exactly true. We create our own demons and then we fight with them for the rest of our lives. We create our own addictions. We create our own anger issues. Sometimes we have our own traumatic experiences and then we want to blame other people for them. We create those too. And then we want to blame unseen forces. It happens to everybody. It happens to everybody. And this is something that I have learned too. Sometimes, and I was told this, and I'm never going to forget that because it was like a slap on the face. I'm never going to forget that lady ever. She told me, she looked at me straight in the eye and she told me, people that suffer unnecessarily create an entity on itself within themselves that is like a wolf, and you feed it sadness until it cannot consume any more tears. And it comes a day when you can cry no more, and it's gonna have a life on its own, and you will never be able to control it again, and it's going to kill you. And she was right. She was talking about depression. She was talking about people that suffer unnecessarily and on purpose. She was talking about me. I was 23, so I just needed to go through the motions of certain things first before it hit me in the head. Before I came to realize that what she meant by that. Yes. It is. This is Sarah. Sarah says, I spent much of a chapter of the book I'm writing explaining how it is important to have a grasp of the lore of many different cultures when battling malicious spirits, because if you have to adapt okay, well, this is a long one. Battling malicious spirits, because you have to adapt your tactics based on the beliefs of the entity and beliefs of the client. How those beliefs interact is what really matters in the outcome. I had a case once with a nasty entity that I had entered a little statue of Jesus. It was hopping on the shelf, growling at me while I did a banishing ritual. The client was a devout Catholic with a demon in a Jesus statue. It took a pagan doing a banishing because it had no concept of Christianity. All religions share a key concept. Use what works. Yep. This is exactly, and people read this comment over and over again because this is exactly what I told you guys before. Like humans, and this is something I want you people to think about, because I am not going to mention the why here. I am not going to mention the why here, because many people are not going to like it. And there's a reason for that. If you have a demon, a bad entity in your house, it doesn't matter how Jewish or Christian you are. If he doesn't believe in your Jesus, it doesn't matter how much you pray in the name of Jesus, he's not going to care. Because it's not going to work at all. On the contrary, if you're a pagan, it doesn't matter how many banishings you do. If your entity was only believes in Christ, that is the only thing that is going to work. It's the only thing that is going to work. And I have seen it. The first time that I actually realized it, I laughed. I really laughed because it happened the way that the lady described. It happened the way that the lady described. This person, it was funnier. It was funnier because it was at the house of a Protestant minister that came to me, that I am a pagan, what many people would consider a pagan witch, to actually help him do a banishing. He was the pastor of a church, coming to a witch that not even a week before, he was actually saying in the pulpit that people like me was going to hell. And he actually his wife came to me at my house at 3 o'clock in the morning, begging me to go help him. And that happens every day. It happens all the time, all around the world. All around the world. Because what they were doing she told me that they have been trying to shush that thing away for over 4 years. And it didn't help. And nothing was working. So, thank you, Renee, for being here. I think I have taken enough of you guys' time. It has been a pleasure for me to be here. It's been a fascinating subject. I apologize again for the mishap earlier. And thank you so much for being here in Shadows of the... Sorry about that. Thank you so much for being with us here at the group, and with David and Wanda and all of the guys here. Shadows of the Grave. Sorry, I am so tired. Let me... Sorry. Some things. Thank you so much. Actually, let me thank really quick Sarah and everybody that came here and took the time to actually come and hear and comment right here in the comments to ask the questions. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And I hope you guys keep coming around here at Shadows. And it's been a pleasure. It's really been a pleasure. So, again, we're closing. As Shadows Beyond the Grave and the Paranormal with David Cutler. We're signing off. Until next time. So have a blessed night. And bye-bye.